what things in your culture fuel your inspiration as a designer? I know we were talking a little bit earlier about that. Is there any other things that inspire you, like your mother's, your empathy for your mom? What else in your part of the world do you draw from that makes you want to create something that's useful for society?
If you go to any part of India, for example, if you go to Uttar Pradesh, uh, there is a city called Muradabad. It is called Pital Nagri.
Mm.
So Pital Nagri means brass city.
Mm.
So those people have explored everything that could have been done with brass. So when they have explored it, Moradabad is in northern part of India. Some people from southern part of India went there. They took inspiration from them. They took that to their state, and now they further explored it. So what they did was they treated that with zinc oxide and copper sulfate
Mm.
that turned the surface black.
Wow.
Now a master artisan carved floral patterns on them, and they didn't stop here. The carvings were made, and they filled silver on it. So, and that piece looks beautiful. It is called Bidri artwork. It is practiced in Karnataka. So I think a lot of handicrafts in India are inspired from each other, and at it really amazes me that we were connected so well that if you go to Rajasthan, there is Kundan Meenakari. Like there is a bead of jewelry, and the person is drawing a tail from his folk tail over it using a fine brush, and he's doing with that precision. And you have to see the folk tail by a magnifying glass, and that traveled to Uttar Pradesh, and that become Gulabi Minakari. Gulabi means pink, so he used pink color over there. So the inspiration that's other the different states of India have taken from each other is amazing. Then I think uh, world is talking about frugal design now. India has always been frugal.
Mm.
We call it jugaad. Jugaad is like fixing something with the least amount of resources.
Haha.
And yeah, by the name of Jugaad, I really remembered a book recommendation. Um, it's called Jugaad by Simone Ahuja.
Jugard.
She has written a book. Yeah, Jugaad. Jugaad. I have that book. Yeah, probably at the last of the interview, I'll show you all of the books. I have all the design books besides me. So in that book, she has collected a lot of frugal designs from India, and she has made a collection of that in that book. In that book, I remember there was a fridge called a refrigerator called Mitti Cool. So the potter from Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh made a refrigerator out of soil, and that refrigerator works without electricity,
Wow.
and he gets international orders for that. So that's the amount of frugality India has.
That's it's amazing that you mentioned that because I attended IDC last year
Oh,
in 2023, and
IDC. What's the full form of IDC?
that's the industrial, what is it, IDC, Industrial Design Conference. So
Okay.
I'm also a member of IDSA. That's the Industrial Designers Society of
Yeah,
America.
I know that. Yeah.
IDC every year they try and meet somewhere in the states where they bring all the ID people together, and they talk about things related to ID. And um, one of the speakers was from Turkey, and
Okay.
in Turkey they do something very similar. They actually have vendors pretty much on every block, where if you have like
Okay.
a busted smartphone or something like that, you could take it right to them and they could fix the thing for you. And she was noticing this type of stuff pop up in Florida when she moved here to the States, that there are people that are trying to
Hmm.
do these. Uh, they call it they call it DIY over here, like do it yourself. And
Okay.
it's kind of like this movement where they're like, if you find something that's kind of busted, you spend a little bit of money and you could fix it and make it a new. Like whether it's adding a stitch of fabric over a messed up jacket, or it's or it's adding an extra piece onto like a busted piece of furniture just to give it a little bit of like
Yeah.
character, you know. So it's interesting that you mentioned that now. It's starting to become a global thing, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's like planned obsolescence has to at some point
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
You know.
definitely. Everyone has learned it, that Phillips story.
Yep.
Everyone knows that story.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's I mean it's bad. Maybe a long time ago it seemed like a good idea when everybody had a
Yeah,
lot
to
of
earn
money to
some
buy
profit.
stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah.
for decades and decades and decades it's no good. Here's a funny story. So I don't have my phone on me, but I
Mhm.
bought a smartphone, one of my first
Okay.
phones, and I this was back when we were starting to um, this was back when smartphones were starting to become more popular, and I still have my old flip phone, and I
Okay.
finally upgraded to a smartphone. I had it for about 2 years, and then it was getting to the point where it wouldn't call, it would hang up on people, it was doing weird stuff, and I took it back to the people I bought the phone from, and I said, "Hey, is there any
Uh,
way that we could fix this and stuff?" And they said, "Oh no, every day or every month, it's downloading
hmm,
new software for updates, and eventually it gets to the
hmm,
point where the you know the motherboard and all the processors and stuff can't handle any of this new information, and it wears out." And I'm like, "So you and and then he went on to say, hey, we've got these new $700 phones. Do you want to buy one?" I
uh,
was like, "You just told me that this phone only lasts 2 years. Why would I buy a $700 phone when this $400 phone does the same thing?" And he just didn't have a good answer for me. I was like, planned
yeah, yeah, yeah.
obsolescence, man. So
Nicholas, I must say you have a really frugal mindset.
I mean, if you get handy with stuff, you can fix things. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's washers and dryers, for example. Like
Yeah.
I bought a washer and dryer a few years ago, like a decade ago actually, and it finally got to the point where the washing machine stopped working, and I was like, okay, well, let's go see if I could buy a new one. When I when I first bought the
Uh,
washer and dryer, they were $700. I went out a few months ago to find a new washer and dryer, and just the washer was $700. I'm like, I'm not spending this kind of money. So I took the top off, tried to
yeah,
see
yeah,
what was going on. Yeah, all I had to do was replace some shocks in it, and that cost me $70.
yeah, yeah.
So
And and when you go to the service centers, they know what kind of problems you are going to have. They are going to have spare parts for that. They, for example, if you want uh, s- a product to last for 2 years, what will you do if there are metal gears inside it? You will add one plastic gear. You know that plastic gear is going to fail always.
mm-hmm,
So you have that in your service center.
mm-hmm, yep,
That's planned obsolescence. But yeah, you said about your phone not lasting even 2 years. Another documentary recommendation called Objectified. You must have seen it.
objectified.
It's like, yeah, Objectified. Uh, a lot of industrial designers, the top ones, are interviewed in that documentary. Amazing documentary.
Mm-hmm.
In that, Karim Rashid, the famous uh, funky industrial designer, he says a very interesting point. He says, if the smartphones are going to last only 2 years, why are we making them with the materials that are going to last forever? Why aren't we making smartphones with cardboards that will last only 2 years?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And you mentioned about the DIY thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is a documentary by Autodesk called Makers Movement. I feel Makers. I'll send you a link. I think it's on Vimeo or something.
Okay.
Makers Movement. Amazing documentary on the exact thing you described.
That might have been what she
They
was talking
demanded
about.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been what she was talking about. I can't remember.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure. Anyway,
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Yeah. 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 So that was it. And there is a lot of repair culture in India. Like
Mm.
if something gets broken, people try to fix it with some super glue or something, but people don't throw things usually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the things are changing. I think the newer generation is more privileged, so they don't value the stuff. But as our independence happened 75 years ago, our parents were the generation just after the people who fought for independence. So
Mm-hmm.
they were very frugal.
Mm-hmm.
They had to be.
Mm-hmm.
But our generation is very privileged. We have not seen the struggles. I think similarly, we were taught about in industrial design school the
Mm-hmm.
thing called systems thinking, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
While you design something, for example, you're eating a sandwich. You might be knowing about systems thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know what, but I'll tell about for the audience.
No, you go
If
ahead.
you're eating, you if you're eating a sandwich, maybe the one of the ingredient, for example, chili, might have been imported from Mexico. The turmeric might have been imported from Africa. The bread might have come from other state.
Mm-hmm.
So we say that when we are eating a sandwich, we are they are wrapping it around paper with paper and giving to you. You are thinking, oh, I am not using plastic. I am holding it with the paper, and you think I have done my part. I am really sustainable. I am using biodegradable material.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case, man. If you see the carbon footprint of that one sandwich, the amount of carbon that has been emitted to bring the ingredients, that's
Mm-hmm.
messed up.
Right.
We cannot work on making just a product. We have to work on the systems, how we are sourcing our materials, then after the use case of the material, where the how it is going to get discarded. We have to plan that.
Mm-hmm.
It is not getting planned, I think. There was a very good initiative by Adidas or Nike, I'm not remembering. So for example, if you want to recycle a shoe has its upper part that is made of fabric, the shoelaces are made of other material, the anklet is of other material, sole is of rubber. So there are different materials, so you have to separate that. If a person is assigned to separate all the things, a lot of time will get wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they designed a shoe with only one type of plastic, and they tried different densities of material and made the shoelaces, the sole, and everything with that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing is required. That's system thinking.
Yeah. Make it simple. Make it where it's something that you can, if you can,
Yeah,
locally
it's
source
easy
it.
to recycle at least.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. We talked a lot about sustainability and we talked about some inspiration stuff and kind of how you became a designer or becoming a designer. And what um what would you say to somebody like, you know, 10 year old you that didn't know anything about design and everything? What would you say to them about studying design and everything?
No, I won't say anything to a 10-year-old. I would say play badminton or cricket. Uh, but for someone in their 10th grade, I would like to suggest something. If you want to do industrial design, do it right away after your 12th grade. Don't wait, like, don't do engineering and do masters in design. 18 to 22 years, the 4 years are so precious for you because you are transitioning from a teenager to a early 20s guy. You
Mm-hmm.
have the most amount of energy in you. If you put that energy into the course that you really want to do, you can create wonders.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give that energy to something that you don't want to do in the long term. Do your design right after 12th grade. Then secondly, I would want to suggest to someone like me, like I want to do engineering as well as I want to do design. So what should be the case? Still, I won't suggest you do engineering. What I will suggest is after your 10th class, do a polytechnic diploma of 3 years in mechanical engineering. After the 3 years of diploma, you can get admission into second year of engineering. Like if you do in mechanical diploma, you can get into second year of mechanical engineering BTech degree. But instead of taking admission into engineering degree, take admission into industrial design degree. A lot of industrial design schools accept mechanical polytechnic degrees. And man, after your 10th grade, you are just 15 to 16-year old. You have a lot of energy. When you go to 11th or 12th grade, you are just sitting on your bench trying to solve math and science problems. But if you do polytechnic, it's a very hands-on course.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you will be doing metal smithy, you will be doing sheet metal bending, you will be operating a lathe. it would be more intuitive and hands-on for you. So it will create a great base for industrial design. You will be far ahead of people, and you'll save 1 year doing this route. How? If you do 11th 12th grade, 2 years gone there. If you do 4 years of engineering, the time gone there. Then 2 years of masters, 8 years. If you do 3 years of polytechnic, then you do bachelor's design degree. It's done in 7 years. 1 year is saved.
Mm-hmm.
And even like if you don't want to do polytechnic, there are still options. You can do engineering and design. There are some institutes in India, but there are two premier institutes. It's very hard to get in. Like you can do BTech in design, IIT Delhi or IIT Madras.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not wrong, James Dyson had opened a college by his name only, and he was offering a bachelor's degree in engineering and design, uh, and they were teaching the way they work in their Dyson R&D team. So that is also a good option.
Being creative and designing things is by no means limited to being an industrial designer. You do have
Yeah.
engineers, some engineers that are just a little bit more creative than others. You also have engineers that are a little bit more analytical than the others.
Hmm.
And you could definitely tell the creative engineers, they were doing some hands-on things growing up. They were taking things
Sure.
apart. They were figuring out how it worked. They were putting new things together, in interesting ways and stuff like that. And that process allowed them to be able to think outside the box. They were like, I can,
Yeah.
it just because you know an example, like if you run an FEA, like a finite element analysis or do stress analysis or something like that, and it says, oh, this thing might break. I have a factor of safety of something, blah 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 or whatever, and you have another guy that says, listen, I've been working with this specific material for 30 years doing this exact thing and it's never busted. You would it would be hard pressed for someone to not take this guy's advice if there's proof, real life proof
Mm.
that trumps that FEA. The FEA only gets you
Yeah.
there so far, but actual touching and feeling and and
Hmm.
and, and designing things and creative sketching, figuring things out
Sure.
along the way, that's how you figure it out. Yeah.
And designers are not the only creative people.
Right. That's
Any
right.
person who is in top of their field, any person is creative. If you look at a lawyer, if
Mm.
he's a top lawyer, he's creative. He knows how to mend the laws and make the case in the favor of his client.
Mm.
He is creative. That's why he's at the top. If
Mm.
you look at a surgeon, he might be taught just 5 stitches, but you think he is limited to those 5 stitches. There
Mm.
might come a patient whose wound is really bad. He will use his creativity and invent his own stitch to do
Yep.
that.
Right.
He's creative, that's why he's at the top.
Yep.
And second thing is like, I find a lot of guys who want to do masters in design have preconceived notion that they are a designer. There is a term for it. It's called dilettante. Like you uh, think you are passionate about something by having a mature knowledge about it, or just reading on the surface level about it, and you think you are passionate for it.
Mm.
That's dangerous because your
It's
perception is going to break.
Yeah. It's like a prima donna or something like that. Someone who's like, oh yeah, I studied design, so I'm a designer, even though I haven't done anything with my hands
Ah.
at all. So yeah, interesting.
You know what? I blame Steve Jobs for this. Steve Jobs has popularized do what you love, and they start to think that love design before even doing design.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think Steve Jobs has spoiled entire generation of designers
No.
now.
It's
Yeah,
tough. It's a tough thing to do. I mean,
yeah,
I I think I think when you're young, you develop that passion for
yeah.
exploring and creating things.
Hmm.
And when you get into design, you're already pre you're already prepped for how complex things can be. Like if somebody says, "Hey,
Hmm.
make me a
Hmm.
new lamp," there's already a gajillion lamps out there. you got to be like, let's, you got to be that person that says, hey, let's do
Yeah,
something different, because you've been training yourself to think differently and do different
you
things and think
eliminate
of it.
possibilities in your mind only.
Right,
Yeah,
right, yeah. Prince, I appreciate it. It has been a fantastic talk. I know it's very, very late over there, but being able to talk about design with you has been a pleasure, and I hope to talk with you again soon. And I'm gonna let you go. I know it's late over there. It was a really good talk, man.
definitely.